many new developments in the saga. Let me straighten my hat because we want to be straight in today's world. Many new developments with regard to the judges, the federal judges, with regard to Donald Trump, how they are trying to block him at every turn. It's unbelievable. It gets worse and worse and worse. It's a cavalcade. It's an avalanche of leftist and rhino Republican judges that are doing a number on what the American people voted for. The confidence and trust in federal judges, there was just a recent poll, is about 24%. I'm surprised it's even that high. And I've been dealing with this for many years. That's why I started Judicial Watch in 1994. It's why I started Freedom Watch, which I run today, which does what Judicial Watch used to do, hard-hitting cases. This is something which is very serious, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And these judges need to be brought in front of our citizens' grand juries. They need to be held accountable. They need to be indicted. They need to be tried. They need to be convicted, and they need to be sentenced. And frankly, they need to spend some time in the slammer. Now, it's interesting because Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, Trump Attorney General, has just taken action, and she's had a judge indicted. This judge actually obstructed justice and allowed a gang member, an illegal alien gang member, to escape ICE, to escape custody. Now, he was indicted. She was indicted, rather. But this is something that grows far wider than just this. These judges are not following their oath of office. There are good federal judges in this country, but you don't find them in the District of Columbia, believe me, which is where most of these cases are, or in Boston, Massachusetts, or Seattle, Washington, or for that matter, Chicago, Illinois, those kinds of venues. The Democrats know where to file them. The leftist groups know where to file them. And don't kid yourself, it's not random selection. That's what it's supposed to be, a wheel of fortune. These cases are specifically assigned to judges that they know are going to do a number on Trump and his agenda right across the board. And you saw that with James Boasberg in Washington, D.C., who's a very corrupt judge, appointed by both political parties, I might add, at different times in his career. So I'm not excluding the Republicans from this as well. Trump is not really a Republican. He's really an independent. He used the Republican Party to be elected because they have a machine that can help. But in fact, most of the congressmen on Capitol Hill, not all of them, I mean, for instance, Nancy Mace and people like that, they're their own people and they do what needs to be done. But most of them only go along because they're threatened with being primary, being defeated if Trump moves against them. So this is why we need to hold these federal judges accountable. We need to reform the legal system. We have a Department of Judicial and Legal Accountability, which we are gearing up to work as a tandem to DOJ, the Department of Government Efficiency. I trust that we will get the support from the people in this. Go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions. We need to do this, and we're going to work side by side with the Trump Justice Department to make sure that our legal system is not just reformed, which people have zero confidence in today, but also that these federal judges are held accountable. They need to pay a price. The other thing I want to say is that what Trump is doing with these large law firms, and particularly in Washington, D.C., is good. These law firms are essentially bag carriers. That's what they've been. They're compromised. They're corrupt, particularly Perkins Coie, who is the one who triggered the Russian collusion investigation. They laundered money for Hillary Clinton to Christopher Steele, that created the phony Steele dossier, which gave rise to Robert Mueller's investigation. Perkins Coie deserves what it gets. But its case went in front of an extremely leftist and partisan judge, Beryl Howe. I've been in front of her. She gives the appearance of being a nice person, but she's not a nice person. And in fact, during the Russian collusion investigation, I asked her to stem the leaks, to plug the leaks that were coming out of Robert Mueller's team that were meant to harm Donald Trump and to harm the American people. And she took no action. She was put on the bench by Senator Pat Leahy of Vermont, who is ultra-leftist. At this point, he's senile, but he's still a leftist. And these are the people you get on the bench. You get politicians in robes. How do they get there? Campaign contributions and other forms of grease put forward by lobbyists and others who make money off of it. And Beryl Howe is also a poster child, not just James Boasberg, but frankly, all of them in DC, with a few exceptions. Perhaps Royce Lamberth is an exception, but they're all very, very partisan, and they have no respect for the rule of law. They do what they want. Now, this is something that I also want you to keep in mind. Trump has also, through the Justice Department, uh, barred Justice Department lawyers on government time and expense in participating in the American Bar Association. I haven't been a member for years. I was for a couple of years in the first part of my career. This is an ultra-leftist organization that controls the accreditation of law schools and recommends federal judges and other judges to the bench. They are leftist, they're socialist, they're communist, they're atheist, they're everything under the sun. And I'm sorry to say that, they are infested with people who hate conservatives. They hate those who believe in the vision and creation of our founding fathers. They are a force in and of themselves. So kudos to President Trump and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, in cutting them off, cutting them down to size. Another thing I want you to take a look at, I want you to look at what's coming out there with judges around the various states, because some of these states are highly corrupt. South Carolina is a good example. Florida, I mean, there's some good judges in Florida that I've been in front of. There's some that don't do their work and, sign proposed orders without looking to what they're doing or concerned whether they're going to be appointed as a federal judge and therefore shade things if they're very big law firms. But by and large, the judges in Florida are pretty good. But there are states around this country, whether it's Rhode Island or whether it's Illinois or whether it's Washington State or Louisiana or places like that, where the corruption is so rampant that it needs to be dealt with. And South Carolina is a very good example of that as well. We're going to be working to have that accomplished as well. So I want you to go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions, get my book, It Takes a Counter-Revolution, Wake Up America. I go through about 20 judges who need to be removed from the bench. They serve for good behavior. They don't have life tenure, as is claimed. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives them that. And as I've said many times, it was Thomas Jefferson who said, unelected, unaccountable to the people, they would become despots and tyrants, causing us to shed the blood of patriots and tyrants again every 20 years or so. That's the natural manure of government. Now, he didn't want anybody hurt or harmed or dead, neither do I. But we need to take legal measures to basically rid ourselves of these judges who are on the bench, who are destroying this country from within. They are the biggest threat. They're a bigger threat than communist China. They're a bigger threat than Russia. They're a bigger threat than Iran. They're a bigger threat than North Korea. They're a bigger threat than Venezuela with the Tren de Aragua gang, which we now know has been organized by the Venezuelan government, and Trump is right on deporting them. Illegal aliens have no due process rights. This is all, excuse the French, bullshit by these federal judges. They're not here legally. They're not American citizens. And by and large, they're not even green card holders. They can be thrown out at the whim of the president, but it's not a whim. He has a valid reason for doing it, and we're going to back him up, and we're going to take action to support what he's doing. We're going to be the complement to his Justice Department, which cannot do everything. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, is up against over 95% of those lawyers who are leftist. She's had to fire some of them because they have gone in front of judges and made arguments against the Trump Justice Department and President Trump himself. And that is why you need a Freedom Watch. It's why you need to support us. I want you to get my book. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions. But it's not enough to read our book. Join our Justice League and become part of our citizens' army, because we can make the difference and we can help ensure that President Trump is successful. Because if he is not successful, we're not going to have a country much longer. Joe Biden and the clowns around him, the leftist clowns, the brain-dead criminal president, you want to call him that, nearly destroyed this country. We were hanging by a thread until President Trump came into office. Now we have to make sure that we can make America great again. We need to revamp our legal system. We need new and better and honest judges who administer to it. Because without judges, we will devolve into a state of revolution. That's my book, It Takes a Counter-Revolution, Wake Up America. Because if you can't solve disputes peacefully, what comes next? And we don't want to see that. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause. We need it badly. We need the help. We need more lawyers. We need more paralegals. We need to be your complement of a Trump Justice Department because they cannot do everything. And we've seen that. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. Remember, God will only help us if we help ourselves. I'll be back Monday with another special podcast. Until then, thank you for listening to me.